There was once a young man named Aarav who had always been surrounded by people. He had friends everywhere. People called him, invited him, laughed with him, and shared their problems with him. Yet, strangely, whenever he returned home and the noise disappeared, he felt empty. One evening, Aarav sat alone beside the Yamuna. The sun was slowly disappearing behind the trees. The river reflected the orange sky, while a gentle breeze moved through the leaves. Aarav looked at the peaceful water and whispered, "Krishna, why do I feel so lonely even when I have so many people around me?" He lowered his head. "I don't want to be alone anymore." At that very moment, Aarav heard the soft sound of a flute. He looked around. Standing beneath a kadamba tree was Lord Krishna. His gentle smile carried a strange kind of peace. Aarav immediately stood up. Krishna smiled. "Why are you afraid of being alone?" Aarav replied, "Because when I am alone, I have to face my thoughts." Krishna walked toward him. "And what is so frightening about your thoughts?" Aarav remained silent. After a moment, he said, "I don't know who I am without other people." Krishna looked at the flowing Yamuna. Then he said, "Then perhaps this solitude has not come to punish you." Aarav looked at him. "Not to punish me?" Krishna smiled. "No, Aarav. It has come to introduce you to yourself." Aarav was confused. Krishna picked up a small stone and dropped it into the river. The water became disturbed for a moment. Then slowly, the ripples disappeared. Krishna said, "Look at the river. When the surface is constantly disturbed, can you see your reflection clearly?" Aarav shook his head. "No, your mind is the same. When you constantly surround yourself with voices, opinions, expectations and distractions, you may forget what your own heart is saying." Aarav looked down. "So being alone is necessary?" Krishna replied, "Not always. But sometimes, yes." He continued, "People often fear solitude because they believe being alone means being unwanted. But there is a difference between loneliness and solitude." Krishna said, "Loneliness says, nobody is with me. Solitude says, I am finally with myself." Aarav's eyes became emotional. "But Krishna, what if people leave me?" Krishna smiled gently. "Then do not immediately ask, why did they leave me? Ask instead, what is this silence trying to teach me? Some people enter your life for a season. Some for a lesson. Some for a journey. And some remain for a lifetime. But you must never lose yourself while trying to make someone stay." Those words touched Aarav deeply. For years, he had been changing himself just to be accepted. He laughed when others laughed. He agreed even when he disagreed. He stayed where his heart wanted to leave. Krishna looked into his eyes. "You have spent too much of your life trying to become important in someone else's story." Aarav asked, "Then what should I do?" Krishna replied, "Become present in your own. Do not run toward people merely because you are afraid of silence. Learn to sit with yourself. Learn to listen. Learn to understand your emotions. Learn what brings peace to your heart. And most importantly, discover your dharma." Aarav asked, "What is my dharma?" Krishna smiled. "Your dharma is not always a grand destiny. Sometimes it is simply becoming the person you were created to become." The wind became stronger. Leaves began falling around them. Krishna picked up one fallen leaf. "Look at this leaf." Aarav nodded. "Does this leaf complain because it has fallen from the tree?" "No." "Does it ask another leaf to fall with it?" Aarav smiled. "No." "Then why do you believe you must always have someone beside you to feel complete?" Aarav had no answer. Krishna gently released the leaf. "Learn from nature. The seed grows alone beneath the soil. The butterfly transforms alone inside its cocoon. The moon travels through the night without asking the stars to carry it. And sometimes, your greatest transformation also requires a season of solitude." Aarav finally understood. Maybe his loneliness wasn't evidence that his life was falling apart. Maybe it was a quiet invitation to grow. But Aarav still had one question. "Krishna, what if I become too comfortable being alone and stop needing people?" Krishna laughed softly. "That is not what I am teaching you. Solitude should make your relationships healthier, not make your heart colder." Aarav listened carefully. Krishna said, "First learn to be peaceful alone. Then you will stop entering relationships from desperation. You will enter them from love." Aarav's eyes filled with tears. He suddenly realized something. He had never truly been looking for love. He had been looking for someone to rescue him from himself. Krishna placed his hand gently on Aarav's shoulder. "You do not need someone to complete you. You need to become whole within yourself." The night slowly descended over the Yamuna. Aarav sat beside Krishna in silence. For the first time, the silence did not feel empty. It felt peaceful. He could hear the river, the wind, the distant birds, and his own breathing. And beneath all of it, he could finally hear his own heart. Krishna's flute began to play again. Aarav opened his eyes. But Krishna was gone. Only the gentle fragrance of flowers remained, and a single peacock feather rested beside him. Aarav picked it up and smiled. He finally understood Krishna's teaching. Sometimes God removes the noise from your life not because He wants you to feel lonely, but because He wants you to hear yourself. So if you are currently going through a season where people are disappearing, where friendships are changing, or where you are spending more time alone, do not immediately assume that your life is going wrong. Perhaps this is your season of preparation. Perhaps Krishna is giving you space to heal, space to think, space to grow, space to discover your dharma. And perhaps the person you are becoming requires the silence you are currently experiencing. Remember this, you don't have to chase everyone who walks away. You don't have to beg anyone to stay. And you don't have to fear your own company. Sometimes walking alone is not the end of your journey. It is the beginning of meeting yourself. And when you become peaceful within yourself, you no longer choose people because you are afraid of being alone. You choose them because their presence adds love to the peace you have already found. That is the difference between needing someone and loving someone. So tonight, if you find yourself alone, don't immediately reach for your phone. Don't run from the silence. Sit quietly for a few minutes. Close your eyes, take a deep breath, and ask your heart, what is Krishna trying to teach me through this season? You may not hear an answer immediately, but stay still, because sometimes, the divine does not speak through noise. It speaks through silence. And maybe your season of being alone is not Krishna taking people away from you. Maybe it is Krishna bringing you back to yourself. If this message touched your heart, remember one final teaching: being alone does not mean being forgotten. Sometimes solitude is where your strength is born, your faith becomes deeper, and your true self finally becomes visible. Trust the season, trust the silence, trust Krishna. Radhe Radhe.